children coming out saying, hey, I want to be, if they're male and they say, I want to be a female, or if they're female and say, I want to be a man, it's our responsibility to still love them unconditionally. What's going on, everybody? Kirby Love back again with another video. Listen, this is part 2 of He Teaches Me How to Father by How He Fathers Me. If you didn't get an opportunity to watch the first one before you watch this one, please go back and watch that one, okay? All of it is good information, good things for fathering, learning how to father. If you're new to this, for me, I have 3 children and I'm still growing. But on today, what I want to do is pick up where I left off from part 1. In part 1, I ended with talking about basically being affectionate. So I want to start this one off with the same thing, just being affectionate. When we look at the word affection, it usually represents love, right? Intimacy, or whatever the case may be. With children and fathering, this is something that we really have to learn how to do, and that is to be affectionate with them. That is to love them through all things. And it's really just going to go into my main point that I want to get into for this particular video, which is to love them unconditionally. To be affectionate with them is one thing, but also loving them unconditionally is another thing. And first, before I go into that, I want to talk about, again, how He teaches me how to father by how He fathers me. So there are so many things that I have done in life, whether I was ignorant to, whether I didn't know it, and even some things that I have known, that I do know, but I still did otherwise, with me knowing exactly what I'm supposed to do. But even in the middle of that, God still loved me unconditionally. No matter what decision I made, no matter how far off I went into the deep end, He still loved me, and He still brought me out of a dark place, you know, or times where I felt like I was lost. He still brought me back, just like, look, you are still my son. So likewise with our children, we have to love them unconditionally, even though they make decisions and do things that we don't always agree with, things that goes against maybe our beliefs or our morals or values and things that we set for our household, our standards. Even though they may go against those things, it's our responsibility to love them unconditionally. It's not, if you do this, then I will love you. No, you have to love them because they're your children. God still loves me because I'm a son of God. I'm a child of God. And when I accepted that and realized that, like, man, God wants to bless me. He wants to do great things for me. He wants me to come to Him. I take that same mindset and apply it to my life as a father, and also being able to see my children's perspective of who I am and what I would desire for them to see in me, or how I would desire for them to see me. Like, I want to be their hero. I want to be the one that they can come to, no matter what the situation is, no matter how they feel. And yes, this even goes, and I know this can be a little touchy, this even goes to children coming out saying, hey, I want to be, if they're male and they say, I want to be a female, or if they're female and say, I want to be a man. It's our responsibility to still love them unconditionally. Now, this does not mean that we agree with everything that they do, but in the middle of all of that, we still have to love them because they are still our child. They're still our children. All right. So this is one thing that I want to just highlight in this particular video in part 2, is loving your child unconditionally. You have to be able to understand that you have made mistakes, that you have done things that were not pleasing to God, that you have done things that were against His will, that you have done things that may even sadden Him. But He still loves you unconditionally. He still loves you to the point where you are now where you are now, and you're doing a whole lot better. But that was because of the grace, that was because of the love, that was because the affection that He showed towards you. You have to be able to carry that same thing over as a parent, as a father. And in this case, I'm talking to father, to men. We have to be able to carry that same thing over. How God sees us, how God treats us, how He treats us, how He loves us, and how He gives us grace. We have to transition that same thing to fathering our children. Grace is a whole nother, well, I wouldn't say a whole nother thing, but it's another thing that we have to also give our children. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to do things, but we still love them unconditionally. We give grace where grace is necessary. Like, this is a time where I have to allow them to go through whatever it is that they're going through, but I'm still going to be able to teach them in the middle of that. Okay, so my next part that I'm going to get into for part 3 is going to be using mistakes as teaching opportunities. But for this particular video right here, for this message for part 2, I just want to talk about loving them unconditionally and being affectionate. And another thing with being affectionate that I hit on a little bit in the first video is just allowing your children to be able to come to you with whatever the situation is, no matter how they feel. Don't put them in a place where they can't express themselves to you, because what you don't want is for them to find the love that you're supposed to give them in someone else. Someone else will become their hero, and that can be something that's something that I definitely don't want in my kids, and hopefully that you don't want someone else, especially as men. You don't want another male figure or even someone on TV that's, you know, portrays a father figure or whatever it is to become their father, to become their hero, to become the one that they look up to. Men have a responsibility in their house. You have a responsibility to set the tone. That's what we would call it in sports. You got to set the tone. You set the, you know, the groundwork, set the foundation, set the standard, and then allow that to be what molds not just you know, you, but your family, your wife, your children, and let it just pass down so that they can carry on those things as they get older. All right, so that's the word for today. For he teaches me how to father by how he fathers me. God is very, very affectionate with me. God is very loving. He gives me grace, and he loves me unconditionally. So in that, I just want to close out with being able to love your children unconditionally, no matter what decision they make, no matter how they rebel. Still love them because they're your children. All right, so grace and peace and blessings. Make sure that you share this video. Make sure that you subscribe. Also, make sure that you like. All of that good stuff. Comment if there are some things that you want to add, some things that you probably want to hear or want me to elaborate on. Make sure that you add that in the comment section, and we will continue to talk about these things because we need leaders. Men are leaders. Our men are supposed to be leaders, and they're needed in the home. So we see a whole lot of things right now where men are trying to be taken away from homes, where this whole feminine movement, and I'm not against women and ladies and things like that, but listen, men are leaders. Men are to lead the home, not the woman. All right, so I just want to leave you with that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment below, like, share, all of that good stuff. See you guys soon.